At this point, we have a basic mouth. Let's go ahead and create a basic eye. And we're going to do it pretty much in the same way that we did before. We're just going to extrude a face. But in this case, we're going to extrude just this one face. But this may create a bit of a topology issue. Now let me show you what I mean. I'm just going to go ahead and just extrude this very quickly. So I'm going to extrude this one face. I'm going to go ahead and scale it in just to show you what I've got here. So when I extrude that and I go back into edge mode here, you'll see that if I do this eye right here, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edges coming into this one vertex. And that's going to create a really tough juncture to model. So I kind of want to avoid that. So I'm going to add in some additional details so that way this will make the eye a little bit more flexible. So I'm actually going to undo my way out of this. And before we extrude the eye, I want to add a little bit of detail. So I'm going to do an insert edge loop, and I'm going to add an edge loop right about there. Just a really tight edge loop, about the same width as these mouth divisions here. And this will give me a little bit of space between the mouth and the eyes. And this will do a couple of things. One, it will separate the eyes and the mouth, so when you deform one, you're not affecting the other. And it also gives you a little bit of room in case you wanted to add a nose or some other facial details. So now that we have this in place, let's go ahead and go back into face mode, select this face, and extrude it. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude this face, and we're going to make it about the same size as the eye. In fact, we can probably go into our front view here and get this pretty close. So again, I'm just scaling and moving so that this square is pretty much around the eye socket. So something like that. And by doing this in the extrude mode, you're going to maintain the integrity of the surface. So I'm wanting to do it here in the tool itself. So now once we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click off of that. So we've got this additional detail. But if we look at it from the front view, you'll notice that, well, it's kind of squarish. We need more round edges in order to make this an actual eye. So I'm going to add some more edge loops. I'm going to go ahead and do insert edge loop. We're going to create one right here, right around the middle of this eye. And you'll see that when we do that, it adds additional detail all the way around. So we're really adding a lot of additional detail here. And then I'm going to add one vertically. And again, the same thing happens as you're adding a lot of additional detail. But we have the detail for the eye, and this additional detail actually flows all the way through to the mouth. And that's not actually a bad thing because we do need more detail for the mouth in order to get it to animate properly. So this additional detail is actually serving two purposes. Now, one of the things that happens is that when you start adding detail, is you're adding detail, but you're not adding curvature. So before we get to the eye here, let's take a look at what this has done to the body of the character. When I've added this detail, notice how I've got an additional edge loop and additional vertice here, but I don't have additional curvature. So I'm going to have to actually model out this curvature on the body to accommodate for this additional detail. The same goes here on the side. Now I'm going to do that later. Let's just go ahead and finish off the eye, and then we'll go ahead and start modeling the body a little bit later. So I'm going to go into my front view here. Let's turn on our reference, and let's start modeling the eye. Now the first thing I want to do is start moving this detail in. But the problem is that if I start moving this detail, I'm going to affect the curvature of the model. So, for example, if I move this in this way, you'll see that it creates a pretty deep dent. So the way around this is to move along the normal. So I'm going to click on my Move tool, open up the Move settings, and select Normal. And this way, the vertex will move along the surface normal, which should give me a better motion of that vertex, and I won't be deforming my surface quite as much. So what I'm going to do is do basically the same thing I did when I first created the body, is I'm going to use these edges and basically just round off the corners of this square and outline my character's eye. Once I've done that, now I've got something a little bit closer to a round circle for my eye. But you can see I've got a lot of detail down here that's not flowing into place either. So I can certainly take that and move it over. And again, I'm moving along normal here. But I'm going to forego that. Let's go ahead and just finish the eye socket here. So again, I'm going to go into face, and I'm going to select these faces. And we're going to make a socket for the eye. So we're going to do that again using an extrude. So I'm going to go ahead and select extrude and extrude that in. And again, I'm just making enough for a lip for the eye socket. And then I'm going to select delete. So I'm actually going to make a hole here because we're actually going to put a sphere behind here a little bit later and make an actual eyeball. So now we have the socket, but we need a little bit more detail around this way. So I'm going to just insert an edge loop. So when I insert an edge loop, it actually follows the curvature of that eye. And so let's go ahead and select it right about there. And again, just start moving in the vertex detail here. And again, I'm moving along normal. And so what I want to do is just create a nice tight ring around that eye socket. So this is going to control the curvature of the surface when it starts to smooth. Now down here where I inserted this extra edge loop, I'm getting a bit of tightness here, so I may want to select this edge loop, just double click on it, and select that edge loop there and move it down. But I'm in normal mode, so I need to be in world mode in order to do that. And so let's go ahead and just slide that down just a little bit to give myself a little bit more room. In fact, I can slide the top of this mouth down as well, just a little bit to give myself a little bit more detail. So again, I'm trying to maintain a little bit of geometric space between the eyes and the mouth. And so now that I've got this detail in place, I can start to refine it, and we'll do that next.